In this video, we're going to go over the mirror tool and the scale tool. These can be very useful to make symmetrical pieces of geometry with only having to draw smaller portions of it, as well as to adjust drawings to fit in different areas. So we'll start with the mirror tool. And so I have here a piece of geometry that I sketched out. However, I want to make it kind of, this is one quadrant of it, 1/4 of it, and I want to just make some flipped copies of it across these different lines. I could go and draw everything out individually, but it'll be a little easier to use the mirror tool. So we'll do a couple of examples of mirror. Now, the button for mirror is located right up here, and it is keyboard shortcut MI. So the first thing we'll do is I'll just go into the tool, and just like move, copy, and rotate, the mirror command is asking me to select the objects I want to mirror. So I'm just going to window around this entire thing, and then I'll either hit enter or right click. So the next step is it's asking me for a mirror line. So this is then, where am I going to be flipping this across? So in this first practice, I'm just going to flip it along this edge of the object itself. So I'll click on the objects one time, and then I'll either draw down or up. It doesn't really matter. I just need to move my cursor to say that I want to go perfectly vertical against this, because I could do it on an angle if that's something I needed to do. But in this case, and in most cases, we are just doing them straight across. And I'll click to finish off my mirror line. And the last step of mirror, and it's important to not hit escape thinking you're done, but the last step of a mirror is it's asking, do you want to erase the original? So the part that is still highlighted blue, do you want to get rid of it? Yes or no? And in this case, I'm going to click no. I do not want to get rid of the original. And now I have that flipped copy. So let's look at that again. And this time I'm going to select my geometry beforehand as well as use the keyboard shortcut. So I'm going to highlight my entire piece, and then I'm going to start the mirror command using the keyboard shortcut MI, enter, and it skips that first part of select your objects because I already have them selected, and it just wants to know, where do I want to mirror it across? So this time I'm going to select horizontally, and I'll click on this endpoint, and I'll just draw my cursor across, click again, and now again it's prompting me, do you want to erase the original? Which I'll click on no, because I don't. And at this point in my drawing, I can just highlight those little guidelines that I use for my mirror lines and hit the delete key on my keyboard to erase them. So I was able to make this piece of geometry with only having to draw 1/4 of it. I could have gone through and drawn the entire thing and all the pieces, but I was able to get it done a little bit faster thanks to the mirror tool. Now, again, just to show you kind of how the mirror tool could work if my object wasn't on the, or my mirror line wasn't on the object. So I'll highlight my entire piece. I'll start the tool, MI, enter, and this time it wants to specify the first point of your mirror line. So I'm going to click like a little bit off of it or over. So I'll start over here, and I'll zoom out so we can see the copy that it's making. And then I can either draw straight across. I could put it at, a 45-degree angle if I wanted. I'll just go straight down this way. And now it's prompting, do you want to erase your source? This time I'll choose yes, so that you can see that that original piece went away, and now I'm just the flipped copy. In this case, since it's a perfectly symmetrical object, it really didn't change anything. But in some instances, that might be what you're going for, is just to keep the flipped version. So the mirror tool can come in handy a lot when doing gears or any type of design that has symmetry. One thing I think of when I think of the mirror tool is drawing like headlights or the front of a car. So rather than drawing the entire car out, you could draw half of it and then mirror it across. Or if I was trying to design like a stamp or something for the laser engraver, I would have to have it as a mirror on the material when I go to cut and engrave it. So that way, when I go stamp it onto whatever I'm stamping it onto, it actually leaves the correct imprint. So that's the mirror tool. The other tool I want to show you in this video is the scale tool, which is located right here, and it's keyboard shortcut SC. So what scale does is it will either shrink or enlarge whatever you have selected based on a specific scale factor. And in order to figure out our scale factor, we take the number that we want and divide by the number that we have. So for instance, let me just draw a line here across. So I can see that this object in total is 6 units across. That's what I currently have. Let's say I wanted it to be 12 across. And so in that instance, I'd break out my handy dandy calculator and I'd say, well, I want the number 12 and I currently have, so I'll divide that by 6 and I get a scale factor of 2. I purposely picked those numbers because they'd be easy to work with. So then using that scale factor would make my object twice as big. So let's practice that a couple of ways. I'll start the scale command, and the first thing it wants me to do is select my objects. So I'm going to click on or just highlight window around my entire object and then either hit enter or right click to move on to the next portion where it wants me to specify a base point. So that is the point that's going to remain stationary. So I'll just click anywhere on my object in this scenario. And now it's saying to specify my scale factor. So I'm going to type in a scale factor of 2, enter, and it's made my object twice as large. And so if I go back into the line command, and I just draw another reference line to check from that corner to that point, we now see that it is 12 across. Now, scale when it comes to something a little bit more simple like that of just making it 2 times as large, the scale factor is pretty easy and we often won't need like a calculator for it. But let's say I want this object to be all the way across 9.782. Now off the top of my head, I can't do that math. So again, we take the number that we want and we divide it by the number that we have. So I'll open up my calculator again and I want 9, whoops, I'm using the wrong numbers again, 9.782. That's the number I want, and I'm going to divide it by the number I currently have, which is 12. And I get a scale factor of 0.8151 repeating 6. Now, anytime your object is getting smaller, your scale factor is going to be a number less than 1. And anytime your object is getting larger, your scale factor is going to be greater than 1. So this confirms that I did type my scale equation incorrectly. Since I'm making my object smaller, I'm going from 12 to 9.782. So because my object's getting smaller, my number is less than 1. So now when I use the scale tool, I'm going to use the scale factor of 0.81516666666666. And let's do that now. So I'm going to go back into AutoCAD. Let me hit escape to end the line command. This time I'll select my whole object first. And then I'm going to start the command scale using the keyboard shortcut SC. Enter, It's asking to specify a base point, which again, in this instance, could be anywhere. And now it wants my scale factor, so I'm going to use 0.815, and I'll put a couple of sixes in there. You don't have to make it a lot when you have a large decimal like this. And I'll hit enter. And now it is shrunk. And it's 9.788. I'm pretty close. It's probably because I couldn't get the decimal exact, but I'm close enough to what I want, so I'll take it. When we get to the module involving blocks, we'll see how scales and calculating our scale factor can be very important, as a lot of the blocks do not come in at the size that we are hoping for in our drawings. We have to scale them to fit. Sometimes you can just eyeball a scale if it's something that you are just adding in for an aesthetic purpose. But when it's a technical purpose and it needs to be a specific size, you do need to figure out your scale factor using the number that you want divided by the number that you have. And that's how you get your scale factor. Now on Canvas, there are some questions involving creating scales, as well as a enrichment problem to make a object that looks incredibly similar to this. It just has a couple of little extra slots and circles and arcs in it that you can do for extra credit.